Hi, it's Chris Croft here from successfultrainers.com. I'm helping people to set themselves up as freelance trainers, how to learn about the whole process of writing and delivering great training courses. But would that be a good idea in the current economic climate? There's all sorts of evidence that points to a recession coming. There may not be one, but it's looking likely. And is this a good time to get into being a management trainer? And I would say, yes, it's absolutely fine. Now, I know I'm biased, but hear me out. I've got 7 reasons why I don't think training is going to be massively adversely affected by any recession that's coming. And my first point really is that there will always be some companies that do well. In any time of change, there'll be companies who do better than average. And we're only looking for about 30 customers to find and look after. 30 customers, if they do, let's say, 3 days a year of training with you, that's 100 days a year. So that's plenty to live off. If you're charging, let's say, £1,000 a day, that's 100 grand, which would be fantastic. So we just want 30 customers. And although some sectors are down, other sectors are up, and you've just got to find 30 customers in the sectors that are up. And my second point is that actually, when times are quiet, that is a good time to do training. So there are some sensible companies who do training in the quieter times. And particularly if you've got workers who are actually furloughed, the only thing they're allowed to do is train. So actually, this could be a great time to do training. And any recession means that some companies, the sensible ones, will be doing a bit of training while they get the chance. And my third point is that if the economy is down, then you might be doing a little bit less training, but maybe that's fine because you can have some time off. And you can either have some time off for relaxing, and wouldn't it be great to only work 4 days a week instead of 5, or 3 days instead of 4? Some of us are trying to do that actively. So maybe it wouldn't be the end of the world if you did a bit less work. But you can also then get some extra time. And this extra time you get doesn't have to be used for leisure. You could use it for thinking, for planning ahead, and for developing new products, new things that you can sell. Maybe you would use it to video your training course and then put it online, or something that you just have never got round to because you've been too busy working on your treadmill of training courses. So you could have a bit of time to put back into getting ahead of the game. The other thing you can use the time for, of course, is selling. So if you are a bit short of work, you could use that time for selling, and then you could get back to where you want to be. Point number 4 is that if you earn 20% less than last year, maybe that doesn't really matter. Maybe instead of doing 100 days, you just do 80 days. So instead of earning 100,000, you only earn 80,000. That would be fine, wouldn't it? Now, you may wonder what's different about you compared to a company, but companies are very sensitive to the amount of work coming in, to their turnover. Because let's suppose they sell 100 million, they may have costs of 90 million. So they're making 10 million, that's great. But if that 100 goes down to 80, they're in real trouble. They're losing 10 million pounds a year because they have a lot of fixed costs, not least their labour force who have to be paid. So a downturn in their income can be a real problem. But if you're just you and your only cost is a photocopier and maybe petrol, then if you end up doing 80 days instead of 100, it doesn't really matter. You'll just have to slum it on less money, I'm afraid. So that's why individuals are not as sensitive to economic downturns as companies. Now, linked to that is the fact that you have control over your destiny. So you may be working for a company, and if they have a downturn, they have to get rid of, let's say, 20% of their workforce. You might be one of those 20%, and it might not be your fault at all. And almost certainly there's nothing you can do about it. You can't go out and sell more if you work in the HR department or even in the operations department. There's nothing you can do about the fact that the company is selling less and is therefore having to get rid of some people. And you might be one of the best people in the company, but you just might be in the wrong place, in the wrong department that gets cut. But if you're a freelance trainer, you can do something about it. You can get out and do some extra selling. So another option you've got, if your sales go down from 100 days to only 80 days, instead of just earning less money and using the time for something else, you could get out there and do some more selling. You might just have to work a bit harder to sell your 100 days. Even if you have to work really hard to sell your 100 days, at least that's an option that you've got. Now, I just want to make two more points about what happens to training in a recession. And the first is, don't be in the bottom 20%. So suppose a company is on hard times and they decide to cut back on their training. Suppose they cut back their training by 20%. They only do 80% of what they would normally do. You don't want to be in that bottom 20%. And in fact, if you are in the bottom 20%, you should be ashamed of yourself and you shouldn't really even be a trainer. It's probably time to think of a new profession. And I would argue, I don't really want to even be in the bottom 50%. So if a company who I work for halves the amount of training that they're doing, I would hope that they're still going to hire me. And if I was in the bottom 50%, I would feel bad about that and I would make an effort to improve. I don't want to be in the bottom 50% of anything that I do. So make sure you're not in the bottom 50% and then you'll be fine, even if there are cuts to the amount of training that's going on. And my final optimistic point is that training always comes back later. So I've had customers in the past who, for whatever reason, have fallen on hard times and they've cut more than 50%. They've cut all of their training. And what happens is that they can get away with that for a year or two. But after that, they start to get a large number of people who haven't been trained. And they start to have problems. You can't have salespeople not trained in selling. You can't have buyers who don't know how to negotiate, or project managers who've never been trained in project management. So what happens is that sooner or later, they come back to me and they say, Chris, we're back and we've got a whole load of people who need training. Can you help us? So I just wait quietly for a year or 2 or even 3 years. I know they will be back. Because although people think of training as a luxury, it's not. Sooner or later, you have to do it. And you'd be mad not to, really, when you think about the cost compared to the cost of employing people. Because if you employ somebody and it's costing, let's say, 20 or 30,000 to employ that person, the real cost of employment is probably double that. It's probably costing you between 40 and 60k to employ that person by the time you've included on costs like heating the building, paying the rent, IT support and all that sort of thing. So if you're paying 40 to 60 grand for a person, you would be mad not to look after them and train them. And it might cost just £100 to send them on a training course. There's 10 people, it's £1,000 for the day. That's £100 per head. Why would you not spend £100 on somebody who's costing you 50,000 to employ? It's like trying to save money by not putting oil in your Ferrari. You would be mad. And companies know this. So they can cut training in the short term and that's great, but they know that sooner or later they're going to have to train those people. Imagine if you don't train your project managers. Not only are you not putting oil in the Ferrari, but that Ferrari is doing a really important job. It's running projects for you. You've probably got projects that cost £1 million. And if you don't train your project managers for 100 quid, your project can overspend by £500,000. So companies know that sooner or later they have to do the training and they will be back. So if you can batten down the hatches for a year or 2 and either work hard and find some other customers who are in sectors that are doing well, or just earn a bit less and spend the time that you have developing new products, those original customers will be back. So I don't think recessions are a time to fear training. I think it's still a great job. I wouldn't consider leaving training as a profession if there's a recession coming. And I would actively consider still getting into training, even if there's a recession, because good trainers will always find work. So if you do want to get into training, even though there may or may not be a recession coming, please do contact me. My details, as always, will be at the bottom of this video, and I would be delighted to chat about options, whether training is for you, and whether I can help you, and if I can, how I can help you. So give me a call if you're interested. Either I or one of my team will answer, and I look forward to talking to you personally about your future training career. Bye for now.